Hi, everybody. We are going to talk about in this module termination and significance of termination in mental health counseling specifically. Termination is something that should start on your first counseling session. So termination starts on day one, right? Your goal as a mental health counselor is to provide an accurate assessment, diagnosis, treatment plan for your client, and then eventually get to the point of discharging your client with all the skills that they've learned to go back into the world. So termination, there's some ethics surrounding termination. There's some processes surrounding termination that all licensed mental health counselors should know. And so that's what we are going to talk about today. So, what is termination? It's a crucial phase in mental health counseling, right? It's kind of this last phase of counseling. It involves ending the therapeutic relationship with your client. So, during termination, like I just said, there's ethical responsibilities and there's closure. Sometimes termination is the only time you have to give a healthy goodbye, right? The only time in a client's life that they might have experienced a healthy goodbye. So your job as the LMHC is to model that. When you say goodbye to clients, they may experience lots of emotions. Goodbyes are hard. They're hard. We bring our own stuff to goodbyes, and clients bring their stuff to goodbyes too. And it's really important to remember that you're still the counselor in the room. You're still providing that safe therapeutic relationship. So any emotions that come from your clients are okay. And it's your job to regulate them and to help your client get through them. Also, termination is an opportunity to evaluate progress and empower your clients for independence. So all along the way, you will have a treatment plan that you're following. If you remember, we do short-term goals, we do long-term goals. So termination is a really great time to look at all of those goals and to say, wow, look how much you've achieved, client. You're ready to move forward and go on and take on your life. So, as I said, there are some ethical responsibilities that come along with termination. These can be found in the 2014 ACA Code of Ethics. You're going to have to reference the Code of Ethics for your assignment, one of your assignments this week, so make sure you have that on hand. But as LMHCs, you have ethical obligations towards clients in termination, right? So you have to ensure confidentiality and discuss any remaining concerns. So just because the client is no longer your client, you still cannot breach confidentiality, right? We're still not talking to anybody else about that client. We're never forwarding records on. We're never having discussions with other providers without a release, even though the client is not yours anymore. You're going to have to keep your records. You have to keep your records. You have to store them. You have to keep them for up to 7 years, I believe. So talking to your clients about where the records are going to be kept, and the fact that you are not going to breach confidentiality, even though they're no longer a client of yours, is really important. It's important to discuss any remaining concerns. This can be a really difficult conversation, but as the LMHC, again, it's your job to model a healthy goodbye. It's your job to show your client that you're able to terminate a relationship in a really productive and meaningful way. And if there's things that are lingering, you have to have that difficult conversation about anything that's lingering. You want to have an open dialogue about ethical considerations. You want to talk to your client about, it's time to say goodbye. This is another phase of your treatment. This is the termination phase. This is like a thing in counseling, and I have some ethical considerations that I have to think about, and I'm going to share those with you. And that's going to help you with a healthy goodbye. And again, you have to adhere to the ACA Code of Ethics, and I would check out the AMCA standards as well. American Mental Health Counselor Association standards. They give you some really good tips around termination as well. So for closure and resolution, closure is really, really important, especially for all clients, but especially for clients that are coming up to us with some sort of attachment concerns or abandonment issues or trauma, right? So modeling a healthy closure, it's important to help them fully integrate the counseling experience and see it to come full circle. A clear ending also aids in emotional resolution and closure of unfinished business. And it's important to be clear with the client that we are terminating, right? This is closure. Exploring feelings around termination facilitates closure and reduces anxiety. So label it for your clients. It's time to say goodbye. This is going to be really hard. It's especially hard if you're working with all clients, but it can be especially hard with kids to say goodbye. It can be hard with teenagers to say goodbye. I can tell you a little story. I just transitioned a client that I've had since 6th grade, and he is now just 18, and he is in college, and I've had him for a very long time. A lot of, weekly sessions to start with when he was little, and then monthly check-ins, and then on and off throughout the years. But he reappeared and presented with problems associated with transitioning to young adulthood. And that is not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is kids. So we had to have a really difficult conversation around, okay, we're going to have to terminate this relationship, this therapeutic relationship. I'm going to provide you with some resources. I'm going to provide you with a referral to somebody that can help you with your next step in the journey. But it was hard for him. It was hard for me. So just labeling that and letting clients know that that's all a normal part of it. Closure also provides an opportunity to reflect on the therapeutic journey. It's a really great place to say, look how far you've come. You can even pull out your treatment planner when this happens, pull out those treatment goals, be reflective around it, have meaningful conversation around, hey, do you remember when this happened? Look how far you came from this. What did you learn from that? Termination can also take 3 or 4 sessions. So this is not something you have to do in one session. I've had clients that it took 6 months to terminate with, but you want to make sure that you are explaining to them every step of the way what the termination looks like. And clients need closure to move forward in their personal growth and healing. I think one of the beautiful parts of our job is that we just get to walk alongside our clients for a little part of their journey. And then we hand them off, we hand them off to the next part of their journey. So this really helps them to get closure and you to get closure as they move forward. You're also helping them prepare for independence. So there's nothing more empowering than your client, recognizing their own agency, recognizing, their self-efficacy, that they have control over their life. So termination is preparing them for managing future challenges independently. You can go back over coping skills, right? You can talk about, in this situation, this is really helpful. When this comes up, this is really helpful. Or let's make a list of your top 5 coping skills that you could use in other situations. You can help them think about the strategies that they've used and how they are going to use those strategies without your support, what that might look like, who else in their community they can reach out to for support. So friends, family, that type of thing. Building confidence promotes your client's self-reliance and autonomy, which is a beautiful thing. And it helps clients maintain their progress after counseling. So once they leave you, their journey is still going on, right? So you want to make sure that they leave with all the tools that they need to be successful. And then evaluation of progress. So this is where it's really important to have good case notes. It's really important to have a really solid treatment plan. It's important to have pre and post assessment measures, right? So you can talk about all of that with your client and you can show them how they have demonstrated success. It allows you to acknowledge their growth and their achievement. It allows you to be really reflective with your client around their changes in behaviors, thoughts, and emotions, and how that has led to their success. It helps you to identify areas of improvement and to help them to set goals for the future. So even though those goals might not be with you, they're still setting goals for their future. It reinforces the value and effectiveness of counseling. Clients go in and out of counseling their entire lives. They should. Everybody deserves to talk to somebody. So whether you terminate and that client comes back to you in a couple of years or moves on to their next therapist in a couple of years, this is going to help you to reinforce the value and effectiveness of their counseling. And then it ensures that therapy is impactful and results driven for clients. I can't tell you how many folks I've done an intake with, and I've said, tell me about, your experience with counseling in the past. And they'll say things like, oh, I had a terrible experience, and oh, that person didn't listen to me and they didn't help me at all. And you want all that information so you know what is best for your client, how they learn best, how they recognize success as they move forward. And then a healthy goodbye. To me, this is probably the most important part. This sets the stage for positive closure. A lot of times clients come with attachment issues. They come with abandonment issues. They might come with grief and loss. There might be, if you're doing couples counseling, there might be a breakup in there. There could be anything. So modeling a healthy goodbye and having closure around your journey with your client is really important. Within this healthy goodbye, you acknowledge that the therapeutic bond and expressing gratitude is important. Thank you so much for letting me walk on this journey with you. Here's what I learned from you as a human being, right? I'm so happy that I was able to help you and that you learned coping strategies and techniques, but here's what I learned from you as well. You can also, during termination, help them process any lingering emotions, and then discuss the impact of counseling and expressing appreciation to support their growth. So your healthy goodbye is going to pave the way for future therapeutic relationships. Don't think, again, just because your time with a client is done, that doesn't mean that their time being a client is done. So you want to make sure that the next person that they see, they don't come in with a narrative, oh, nobody helped me and it was terrible, and all of those things that sometimes we hear. You also want to empower your clients. So you're going to reinforce their autonomy and decision-making. You, throughout the entire treatment process, should be helping your clients self-advocate and build those advocating skills. So this is a great place to talk about those skills that they've built and how they can use those skills to navigate any challenges independently. You want to, I say this with working with kids all the time, like you want to build clients' community. It's not just you and the client. You don't want the client completely reliant upon you for their care, right? God forbid something happened to you or they're not able to see you anymore. You want to make sure that you build their community, and with that comes community resources. So making sure that you have literally something to hand them that says, here are the resources in our community. Here's how you get in touch with people that you need. And then if you empower clients, they're more likely to continue their personal development journey. Again, you don't want the client reliant on you. That is not about the client. That's about you and your need to save for whatever reason that is. You want to empower your clients to move forward. So when you think about phases of termination, again, termination starts at day 1, but there are some phases that I want you to think about. So phase 1 is preparing for termination. So during this phase, you're going to discuss the termination process with the client. You're going to address any anticipatory anxieties or fears. You're going to help them identify their goals that they've achieved and the progress they've made through the counseling journey. And then together, you're going to create a termination plan. And within that termination plan, you're going to talk about what are our sessions going to look like moving forward? How are we going to gradually reduce our sessions? And you're going to have a strategy for maintaining the progress that the client has made. And you're going to write this down. You're going to write it down just like you would in a treatment plan. Again, termination length is going to differ depending on the individual needs of the client. And then it's crucial for the counselor to validate the client's feelings and provide support during this transition. It can get really hard, right? It can get really hard. And it's okay for you as the therapist in this safe environment to join with your client around saying, this is hard. It's going to feel sad for me to say goodbye. This is hard. Phase 2, once you move into phase 2, this is ending the therapeutic relationship. So in this phase, both you and your client have come to an agreement that therapy is going to be terminated. You're going to end the therapeutic relationship. You're both acknowledging it in this phase. As the LMHC, you're going to encourage the client to express their thoughts, emotions, and reflections on their entire counseling experience. Let's talk about what this was for you. Let's talk about what you've learned. What do you need to do moving forward? Again, you want to reflect on the progress made. You want to empower them to utilize the skills and say, you can do this, right? You can do this in your future endeavors. And then there's some closure activities you could use. So you could write a letter to your client. You could have your client write a letter to themselves expressing how much they've moved forward. There can be any kind of symbolic ritual that can be incorporated to promote closure. I used to have little rocks for kids, and the rocks would have little sayings on them. So like, believe in yourself, or trust in the process, or this too shall pass, whatever that individual client needed. And they would take that with them when they left. So lastly, and you're going to use this for your assignment this week. Your assignment, there's 2 assignments, but one of them is going to be to have your client, quote unquote, of choice, and you do a termination session. So there's some key points that you may have to make sure that you talk about when you end the therapeutic relationship. And again, when you do it for your video, you're just going to be practicing what it might look like, but this might take months and months to do. So when you do your last session, your key points are: you want to welcome the client, you want to acknowledge the purpose of the meeting, which is discuss the termination of the counseling relationship. You want to recognize your client's achievements, their progress, their personal goals. You want to highlight success. You want to highlight strengths, right? This is a happy meeting. You want to discuss the treatment goals that you set at the beginning of therapy, which ones were met, which ones were partially met, which ones were not met, without judgment. There is no judgment here at all. We're just going to talk about this and talk about what you might need to move forward. You're going to openly discuss any resolved issues or concerns that the client may have. You're going to express or encourage your client to express their feelings openly, and you're going to use your counseling skills to help with your client regulate those feelings. You're also going to acknowledge how normal those feelings are, and you can join with your client, right? Such as sadness, relief, anxiety. Sometimes, folks don't want to be in counseling anymore. So they're like, thank God this is over. Lots of times there's anxiety. How am I going to do this on my own, right? They're all valid. They're all part of the process, and your client can do this. You always want to express your appreciation for the client's trust in your counseling services. What an honor it is for us to sit alongside an individual on their personal journey. Never forget what an honor that is to be let inside that sacred space. So you always want to show appreciation for that. You want to provide a sense of closure by summarizing their journey, your role as their counselor, and the reasons for termination, right? You want to encourage your client to reflect on the progress that they've made. And then again, you're building your client's community, right? You're building their agency. So here is the available resources. If you need a referral to another professional, if you want to go to a support group, self-help, anything that you need to let the client know where they need to turn for further assistance. You're going to review their rights and responsibilities after termination. You're going to tell them how you're going to handle their records and their confidentiality post-termination. And you're going to ensure their client informed consent for any further actions. So you will not do any further actions about that client without letting that client know. You're going to empower the client to use the skills and insights they've gained during counseling in their everyday life. How are we going to transfer these skills? You should be doing that every session anyway, but you're going to highlight how they're really able to do that. You're going to encourage them to be self-reliant and confident in managing future challenges. And you're going to let the client know you're available for a follow-up session if needed, especially if they experience difficulties in the weeks following termination. So we're never leaving clients high and dry. That is not what this is about. This is about a healthy goodbye. This is about having a safety net where you're still there if they need you, right? And expanding their resources in the community. And then again, you're going to express your gratitude for the client's trust and cooperation, and you're going to say a heartfelt goodbye. Reiterate your belief in their ability to thrive and grow independently. And then your heartfelt goodbye is going to be based on your comfort level and on the client's comfort level. I have hugged clients before. I have shaken hands with clients before. I have not. It's just going to depend on what your level of comfort is and what the client's level of comfort is. And then phase three, the last phase is the post-termination adjustment phase. So during this phase, you may see the client, you may not see the client. So the client is adjusting to life after counseling. They're incorporating their newfound insights and coping strategies. They're reflecting on all of those coping strategies that they're using. They might do a follow-up with you. You might want to do a follow-up with them to assess their well-being and to provide additional support if needed. So in your termination plans, if you so choose, it might look like, okay, we're going to do 6 months of termination, and then we're going to follow up once a month for 3 months, and then once a month, every 2 months, and then gradually taper down that way. But you can decide that with your client. You really want to also talk to your clients about any potential relapse concerns, and make sure that they have appropriate resources to manage that. Again, without guilt. If they need to come back, they need to come back. That's okay. Everybody deserves somebody to talk to. So you want to talk through that, what that looks like. And then lastly, your client's encouraged to reflect on their post-termination experiences and celebrate their personal growth. It keeps coming back to the treatment plan and those goals, those short-term and long-term goals. That's when termination, you're ready to terminate with your client. You collaboratively look at their treatment plan, look at their short-term and long-term goals, and say, here's what you've achieved. Do you think it's time to terminate our relationship, or do you think it's time to keep going? And you come across that collaboratively. So for this week, you've got 2 assignments. You're going to make 2 videos and 1 discussion question. There are some articles for you to read. There's no reading from the books this week, but there's some good articles about saying goodbye and what that feels like in the therapeutic relationship. So if you have any questions with anything, please reach out.